I think it probably would do well. Oh, for one, first thing, it was sent out, in case you didn't notice, this, we are recording the meeting today. So I believe we have to let you know that before what happens. If you do have a problem with that, I guess you can leave now and we will not hold it against you. We'll go ahead and, if you will, just introduce yourselves quickly, where you teach, what you teach, and if you have another role associated with Achieving the Dream or anything else you'd like to tell us, Bruce, appreciate it.
Can I interrupt? Because that's actually part of the agenda, and there's something else I want people to say when they go around to do that.
Okay, so we'll switch that right now.
Well, we'll get to it real fast.
We'll get to it real fast. Okay. Well, hold on. Well, I guess you can start thinking about what you want to say. You can start doing your drafts. So I would like to welcome you again and thank you for being here. This is probably a meeting that we've needed to have for a while. As you know, our QEP has been going on for 5 years now. We're in our 5th year. Of course, we also have an intervention in our Achieving the Dream process that deals with success of developmental math students. And those two interventions have had a close relationship, but never really a formal connection other than we've had people who served on both, doing double duty. So we thought the time is now, it's kind of we're gearing up to really bring our Achieving the Dream intervention up to full scale. Of course, we're at a natural point to question our QEP about what's next with our QEP, where do we go, how do we refine it. And we're also, as you know, KCTCS is encouraging colleges to rethink the developmental education process, in particular to speed students up into their college level courses. So we think with all those pressures, as well as other pressures, now's a really interesting time to be involved with developmental math. And so we think that this is the first step in hopefully a very fruitful discussion and planning session and kind of bringing everything together. We are going to let Ben take over and kind of lead the session. Most of you, if you follow, you probably know Ben as our Jefferson Jumpstart coordinator. And he's been very interested, given a lot of thought to developmental education and developmental math. So he's going to facilitate the discussion today. So I'll turn it over to him.
So we'll pick up where you wanted to start, but I just wanted to add that I think because there's so many different people in the room, it'd be very useful if, in addition to saying who you are and what role you play at the college, just a brief sentence about what you hope to gain from today. I always find that very interesting to hear what different people are hoping to get out of the meeting that we're going to have. Because we're spending quite a few hours today to talk about developmental math. So just who you are, what your role in college is, and what you're hoping to get out of today. So let's start with Shirley.
Okay. My name is Shirley Franz. I teach math from the downtown campus, and I'm also a master advisor. What do I hope to get out of today? Well, I'm very interested in seeing what our plans might be in terms of accelerating the process for students to be able to get to a math level that's going to satisfy their educational goal, because languishing in those lower levels is pretty hard on our students.
Benita?
I'm Bonita Tyler. I teach math at Southwest and Fuller County campus. And I'd like to be able to step away with a better idea of where we're headed.
Benita Dobson. I'm the EES coordinator and teach math with the EES program and have taught 55 and 65. And I'm just interested in how we can make our students more successful for developmental math.
I'm Joe Zalish. I'm on the Achieving the Dream FYE 105 co-chair, Achieving the Dream, Learning Outcomes Assessment Coordinator. I quote Shakespeare, I'm math challenged, so I'm hoping anything I can get out of here today will help me. I'm Mary Jones, and I head up institutional effectiveness research and strategic planning. I'm also the administrative support person for the quality enhancement plan. And what I would like to get out of today is that we know where we've been, where we are, where we need to be, and how to get there. That's not too hard.
Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm Division Chair for Math and Science on the downtown campus. I also teach math, more recently in a much more online environment with VLI and other initiatives around the KCTCS. And what I'd like to find out today is where we think we're going. What are we going to try to do to help students be more successful?
I'm Brandon Elms. I teach primarily developmental math, and I'm at the technical campus. I'm technically a part of the downtown faculty. I'm a member of the core team and data team and have worked on the math intervention team. And for me, keeping with the theme of student success, I'd really like to talk about what has worked and what has not worked so far in the redesign model, and really kind of focus on what changes we can make to make sure the students are prepared to move forward to their college level courses.
I'm Jim Stewart. I teach math on the downtown campus. I'm the department head on the downtown campus. And I think I would piggyback on that. I'm interested in seeing what the plan is going forward, or we're going to keep the same, or we're going to change.
I'm Bob Olson. I teach math on the downtown campus. I'm also co-chair of the QEP leadership team and a member of the ATE core team. And I want to see where we're headed for the future, how we can incorporate the successes that we've had with our redesign and keep it moving forward so that we can improve our success rates over what we've been. When we started this venture 5 years ago, we thought at the time the Emporium, or a modified Emporium, was the magic bullet that was going to fix all of our ailments, and thus far it has not proved true. And so what can we keep with what we've been doing, or can we refocus and keep moving forward to improve student success in math?
I'm Brandon Bartley. I teach math on the Southwest campus, and I'm also part of the QEP redesign committee. I've been involved with that since the beginning of us working on it with math. And kind of like with them, I'm interested in where we're going after the fact that QEP is about to quote unquote end, even though it's not really ending. We're just sort of transitioning on. And to get insight from other people. I think sometimes it's good to just see what other people think, and doesn't always necessarily have to come from the math department. Everyone can provide an insight no matter what their specialty is.
I'm Randy Davis. I'm the academic dean on the downtown campus. I do not teach math. We have one math class in college. But what I'd like to see is, I'd like to know, is the QEP really over or not? And if not, how are we transitioning into something else that we're not going to call QEP, or what we're going to call it? I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about that at this point. And I also like, maybe, I don't know, I know we're going to be focusing on developmental, but I also would like maybe have a discussion about this concept of different kinds of math pathways. Statistics, college algebra, something else, based on the student's major and the value of that.
Diane Calvin French, provost, and believe it or not, math was not required when I was an undergraduate at Bellingham. So I had statistics. But same thing, I would like to see, I would really like to see us talk about the QEP, and then generally talk about other strategies for accelerating math. And like Randy, I'm really interested in whether these are, do we have the right pathways? Can there be, should there be multiple pathways for students?
I'm Tony Newberry, president, as you all know. And I'm really glad to see this convening here this afternoon of what we're calling a math summit. I don't know if at our college we've had anything comparable before, but it really is good to see so many folks across the whole college, and I'm assuming that some other folks will be viewing this from their desktops, and we'll get to see the tape later on. Not desktops, but tape later on. But I really do think this is coming at a very important juncture. I mean, as Bruce has said, and it's been referenced a couple of times, we're 5 years, completing 5 years in the QEP. And we had great expectations, and we invested a lot of time and energy and talent of not only our math faculty, but other faculty in the employee model. And we're beginning to see some gains, but as Bob said, it hasn't been the silver bullet that we thought naively that it might be, and I don't think it ever is, but in our case, we are still struggling. But we've invested some real resources, $2.5 million, if I remember, going back 5 years ago, over the 5-year period. And at the same time, we're now launching a new math-related initiative. Jefferson Jumpstart would be a really, really good example. Math with the EES program is a key issue. I mean, there are just a lot of reasons internally that this is a good time to look at it. And then externally, at the state level, there was a time when it was pretty much completely institutional autonomy and complete freedom of faculty and the disciplines, and I'm sure that faculty that freedom will still exist, but there are these pressures upon us as a publicly funded institution to really tackle some of those student success issues. And mathematics is developmental math is foremost among them. One thing that struck me just recently, there was a meeting on Capitol Hill, April the 4th, with the House Education and Workforce Committee, and Chairman George Miller had this group called Complete College America. Stan Jones, a big proponent of acceleration in all things developmental, and especially in developmental mathematics. And Congressman Miller made some headlines, at least in the higher education world, by saying remediation of math just isn't hard to do, it's almost a killer for college completion. And there's kind of this formation vaguely of a consensus, not always well informed, but even at the national level, about the effectiveness of developmental mathematics. And to add some more anxiety, at least it's my anxiety, I hope you all don't have to worry about this, but the Obama administration is fast developing a rating system for colleges and universities. It's not supposed to be a ranking system, it's a rating system in these big groups, the top 20%, the next 20%, and so on. But, and there's speculation about what might be those indicators, those metrics that will determine one's rating. And I'm betting that there'll be something in there about, in those rating systems, about success rates in developmental mathematics. So, not to add any pressure to this discussion, and it's going to be so interesting to see how you all as faculty and leaders at the college, especially the math faculty, how this conversation unfolds. And so what I'm hoping will be some indications of new ideas and new approaches and some creative problem solving will begin to emerge here today.
I'm Stephanie Britt. I teach math, mostly developmental, but not exclusively, at Shelby County and Carrollton campuses. And I've also worked on the ATD faculty focus groups for Jefferson Jumpstart and the math assessment Coyote Compass thing. And what I hope to get out of this. I'm with a couple of y'all, others want to know where we're going forward, of course, and I'm very interested in the pathways.
I'm Jennifer Ackerman. I teach math in the downtown campus, and I'm the developmental math department head. And so I hope to get out of this a great conversation about ideas and ways to improve developmental math, but actually how to make them happen Because I think there are already a lot of good ideas out there and a lot of good research, but it's how do we make it work for our campus and how do we make it work with our students? So that's something I hope that we get to.
I'm Bruce Jost. I'm one of the co-leaders for Achieving the Dream, and I was also one of the members of the original QEP committee way back when. So I've been involved in developmental math, even though I don't teach it for a while now. I hope that we get out of this that you all solve the developmental math problem.
In just 2.5 hours.
Renee White, I'm also one of the ATD co-leaders, and my other hat is as developmental reading chair. And so I'm really interested in collaborations. I know we're working with math on a co-requisite model, but just really how we can do partnerships since we offer tutoring, things like that. And then as a co-leader, just how can we assist with this whole process?
I'm Laura Smith, and I'm Dean of Students for the Downtown, Technical, and Carrollton campuses, and I'm a Achieving the Dream co-leader. And my big hope today is that we tear down any existing silos. It sounds like sometimes when we talk, we have Achieving the Dream is over here, and the math department is over here, and maybe even within the math department there's developmental math and other math, and then the QEP is over here, and that we really bring a united front. We're all here because we care about student success, and we want our students to be more successful whether we're in math or not. We have other expertise. So that's my big goal today, is to see us not think of ourselves in some isolated sense, but as a whole, and that we're all really in this together.
I'm Alice Villadson. There are some of you I haven't met before. I have been your ATD coach for, I think, about 3 years now. And it's been a delight for me to be a part of Jefferson and get to know you fairly well. And what I would hope, I would echo the hopes of many of you today. I will say this: developmental math and then math. With all the configurations that have been mentioned, is the challenge at every single Achieving the Dream college. And so I hope that Jefferson will not see that it is somehow uniquely gifted with this problem. It is a national issue, and the debate continues to rage, and nobody has found a silver bullet yet. And so although I would say, along with Bruce, it would be lovely at the end at 4:30 for us to have a solution to math, we could become kings of the world if that happened. So, but knowledge, there's huge knowledge in this room. And my experience with ATD is indeed when we can get a group of colleagues together representing both math and some other areas, there's huge wisdom that can come from that. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I'm Linda Hagler, and I am your other coach, specifically your data coach, which means I come from a background of doing some analyses and some research. I've done some rather significant research that's been published on developmental remedial math in community colleges. So I bring a little bit of expertise. And our role, both Alice and I, are really to be listeners, to be critical friends, to provide perhaps some ideas, to let you know what other colleges in the Achieving the Dream initiative are doing. Again, to make suggestions, to encourage you to watch the data, to monitor the data, and to kind of start that cycle all over again. So that's really our role. I'm going to echo what Alice says in all of the ATD colleges, including those that I serve at, as well as those that we don't, that developmental math is that hardest nut to crack. It is the issue that all colleges are going through, and so, you have good company. But I want to applaud the college, and I want to applaud all of you for, taking the initiative of trying to figure out the best way to serve students and to assist students to be successful.
I'm Kathy Wright, I'm a history teacher. Almost embarrassed to say that. I'm also the chair of the Social Science and Business Division at Southwest. And for 5 years, I've been co-chairing the QEP implementation team with Bob Olson. And I've learned so much about math. And I'm delighted we're here today to get together and talk about ways to go forward, ways to help our students be successful in math. And I do a great deal of advising with Associate of Arts students, and believe me, I know, I'm painfully aware that math is an obstacle for so many of our students. So anything we can do to increase that success, I'm all for.
I'm the last one.
You are.
I'm Donna Elkins. I'm the Dean of Academic Affairs at the Southwest Campus, and I actually initially went to college as an undergraduate on a science scholarship. I was going to be a botanist, so I have a lot of math in my background and a real love of math and statistics. So, and I was one of the co-chairs of the QEP steering committee, so I've been working with the QEP almost from the beginning. And one of the things that I'm interested in today is I know that the math faculty on my campus are very concerned about student success, and they have had some pockets of success with what we've been doing, but they are interested in making some adjustments to the process and trying some new ideas. And I'm hoping to come away today with a better understanding of how I can support them as they start to do that.
Well, I'm glad that you guys can do that. I've heard many things repeated over and over again. Where are we going? Big question, a big thread. What has worked? What hasn't worked? Another big thread. Hoping for new creative ideas and some new things to come out of this. And people are hoping for that. Several people mentioned pathways as a specific thing that they're hoping that will be talked about, and then a couple people mentioned the collaboration piece, hoping to get that out of this meeting. Let me introduce myself in the summit. We're here, I'm Ben Ashton-Renner, and I'm the Jefferson Jumpstart coordinator. I teach developmental math as well on the downtown campus. And we're here today, gathered a group of individuals that are totally committed to math success. Good. Someone who just had a child. Had a little baby. Congratulations, Stephanie. And I think that we bring different beliefs about what could work or what's wrong, what solutions look like, but we bring a range of skills and we bring decades of experience, and I'm hoping to structure the conversation in a way that will help us draw our attention to the biggest problems, what we think are the biggest obstacles to student success. I think that in terms of success in developmental mathematics, that this college can be a leader college, not just in ATD land, but in the nation. And I don't think that's pie in the sky. I know that we are a long way from that in terms of our success rates in developmental math. And all of us are frustrated with the level of success that we see in our students in developmental math, because it's a long way from anything that we would find satisfactory. But I think we have some pieces in place which are incredibly important. Number one, we have a representative committee that was forged in the QEP, which is composed of math instructors, math faculty from all the different campuses that will continue to give us guidance and leadership and develop these new pathways and redefine the courses and methods, think about what works and what doesn't work. And it's very, very important to have a body that continues to meet and continues to give guidance to the math boat at large. We have faculty that have years of experience and a willingness to engage in professional development to improve what they do. And I know that they're going to continue to work hard and try new things. We're trying new things every semester. Every time we go to a redesign committee meeting, they're talking about all of the new things that people are trying and how that's working. We have a college that's committed to undertaking this paradigm shift about the students and trying to understand under-resourced students. And I think that that's tremendous because of our location and where we are and the students that we serve. We cannot transform our success in developmental math without transforming our understanding of how we work with those students. And as a group, we're going to continue to just learn more about the challenges of dealing with students, and it's just an onion that we keep peeling layers off of. You know, you first get exposure to the idea about under-resourced students, and as you continue to put hours of work in professional development and thinking about how those interactions go with the students in your classroom, you continue to find new challenges and grow. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we've expressed a willingness to use data to help us look at the problems directly. And we have technology that allows us to do this in a way that 15, 20 years ago wouldn't have been possible. So I just want to share with you one little piece of ugly data, because I think that that's one of the challenges is really being courageous enough to look at the ugly data. I generated the data as part of a research project that I was doing in the fall, just to try to get to know Jefferson. I did it by looking at every Math 55 student in fall 2012, one by one. And then I got smart and called Shauna and IE, and she ran some numbers for me. And this is where these numbers come from. If a student passed Math 55 or 65, that's an A, B, or C, in fall 2012, the fall to spring retention was 86.9%. That was true for the 654 students who passed Math 55 or 65. But if a student got a W or an F, the retention was 47.8%, and that was 1,165 students. We need to understand that we lose students as soon as they give up on math. If they give up on math, they're probably walking out the door that semester or the next semester. And that's our challenge. We've got to turn that statistic around. The statistic about how many students look at the math course and say, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. I believe we should set our sights high as 70 to 80% success in developmental math. That could take a decade to reach that goal, but if we set incremental goals and work towards those, I believe that we can get there. The most important task for us is to bring all the resources we have together and work as a team, not as individuals or individual departments. And that's why we're here today. The layout of the agenda is designed to be generative and collaborative, and I hope that it serves to bring us together so we can continue our work more effectively. So the second part of the meeting is just a review of what has happened from the perspectives of the leadership and the various pieces. So there's three pieces that we want to review: the QEP, and there are several people who may care to speak to that. Developmental math. Jennifer's going to speak to her efforts as the coordinator, and then I'll very briefly talk about the ATD math intervention. So does anybody from the QEP want to lead us off in terms of trying to summarize the last 5 years in 5 minutes?
I don't know, I don't want to speak for the QEP people, but there is a summary that's on the table. If you didn't pick one up when you came in, you might want to pick one up. It's a summary of the 5 years. It's a communication document. I mean, we have to write a complete 10-page document for our creditor, but it gives you a lot of information. But I would call your attention, I'm going to let Bob and Kathy especially talk, and Brandon, about anybody who's been working on the QEP. On the last page, going forward, you'll see a lot of specifics, ideas about possibilities of going forward in math. Based on the infrastructure that was built with the QEP. The modular modified Encorian approach is an infrastructure, and it allows some things to happen that could never happen before. And you can see some of that in going forward in the next 3 years with our transfer students and with our career and technical education students, because they have differing things, and it's a different way of looking at what other colleges are doing across the country to achieve greater success in math. So I call your attention to that, and I'm going to let Bob and Kathy talk more.
When the QEP steering committee settled upon math as the topic, then another committee was formed to try to decide what to do to improve success in developmental math. We did a lot of searching of best practices around the country, and at the time, the Emporium model seemed to be the best, to have the best success rate of all the models at the time, so that's why we chose to go that direction. We used Cleveland State Community College in Tennessee as a model, and we actually did a modified Emporium model, much like they were doing at the time, so that we still had student contact in the classroom in smaller groups, in addition to large computer labs throughout each of our campuses. So that was the premise that we began with. We started at the lowest levels, working our way up in redesigning each of these developmental classes to do the modified Emporium. We made a number of changes, some at our discretion, some that were, I guess I shouldn't say forced upon us, but really they were.
When a curriculum committee changes.
We decided that by having 6 different campuses and 2 or 3 or 4 different textbooks, that was a detriment to what we were trying to accomplish. And so, believe it or not, the people from 6 campuses got together and selected a single textbook for all 3 of our developmental math courses. It's not a perfect fit for what we're trying to do, but probably as good as anything that we could find. And so we set about creating and setting up the course content using this single textbook. And about the time we were getting to do that, one of the forced changes was the change in the curriculum, the learning objectives, trying to meet the course standards and college readiness. The 3 developmental courses, in my opinion, were made much harder than they were already, which just added to the frustration to us and the students in trying to create success. And so we implemented new course objectives with a new textbook, and after doing that, we saw the slowly increasing pass rates do this, and now we're on the upturn again. They're getting better, they're nowhere near what we want, but I think we're headed in the right direction. So that's pretty much where we've gone. This redesign committee that's meeting several times a semester are still looking at what can we do with the existing model to improve. We have basically eliminated the lectures from all of the developmental classes. Each textbook, or the textbook that we're using, has video lectures where a student can watch the video over and over until they understand. But students still aren't really good about spending the necessary time to do this. For some reason, many of our students think they can come to college and do little or nothing and pass courses. And they're not watching the videos like they should. Our group has created video question or video notes, guided notes that go along with these. We're working with our publisher to make them in book form so that students will be required to buy those and answer questions related to video lectures, so we can better assure that they are studying the material before they go to their homework. And we've done several other things as well to try to improve. And since the different pathways has not been a charge of the QEP, I'm not going to address that at this point, but that's kind of a synopsis of what we've been doing from the math end.
Kathy, you want to add anything?
I just wanted to mention that Bob is not only the co-chair of the implementation committee, he's also the co-chair of the redesign committee, and it has been huge. And they have done, truthfully, the lion's share of the work on this. And every time there has been an unexpected change, and there have been several, it has bounced back into the laps of the redesign committee to go back, alter the modules. You know, the change from 120 to 085, and I'm not going to get into it, but it created a lot of totally different learning outcomes that had to be adjusted, and it's been huge. Now, as heavy as the workload has been, and I don't sit on that committee, I just see it. I know it's been huge. I will tell you, I think it's been a real plus in that it's gotten representation from all 6 campuses. They've worked together very hard to make these modules as accessible and as understandable for the students as they possibly can be. And to me, that's been it's been a really worthwhile thing to watch happen. So I'm real pleased about that. But he doesn't get enough credit, so I just have to tell you all. Bob and Jerry Johnson, who can't be here today, is the co-chair, the other co-chair of the redesign, and it's been a tremendous amount of work on the part of the math committee, of the redesign committee.
Can I just also add in, both Kathy and Bob as co-chairs have been a delight to work with. They are so hardworking. But the whole QEP leadership team, I mean, there are other people on that team. Donna was our professional development person. I mean, this is a 5-year thing we went through here. So Donna was professional development. Stacy Taylor was assessment. I mean, I love her. I mean, we just had enormous amounts of assessment, which was very valuable as we went forward, because we actually did eliminate one of our goals. We decided anxiety was not something we could fix. And all our data said we just made them more anxious the more we talked about it. So we looked at the data and said, okay, we've had enough of that. So, but they did a lot of work, and I also have to give them a lot of credit because there were so many changes, and they just rolled with the punches. I mean, you just keep moving forward. And then at the very end here, as we're writing this summary report of all the accomplishments, and we can only use 10 pages total for 5 years worth of work. And it's very hard because there were so many commitments made by so many people, and starting with the president who made the commitment that we would do this and fund this. That was no small feat. I mean, we added 5 full-time regular faculty in the math department. I mean, that's phenomenal. Couldn't have done it without that. And the continuing tutoring budget, tutors being an extremely valuable thing. And recognizing all that work going forward over 5 years, this is not something that was done lightly, nor was it done in a minute or two. This was a long process. And I want to thank all of them and recognize that work, because the very thing they're doing right now is what you're talking about here. The QEP leadership team is talking about going forward. Where do we go with this process? And what we're talking about, as I said, the modules themselves are an infrastructure of how to deliver math. But how you deliver it through modules is the key question. We talked in the QEP leadership team about doing customization of developmental math based on what the programs and departments need, those students in those programs and departments. Not what we've got in this 16 weeks, but what do they need? And have the programs and departments identify the competencies needed to complete their program or in their studies, whether that be an Associate of Arts or a certificate program in trade and industry, whatever it is. And Brandon's been working on a lot of things at the trade and industry side. But there's a lot of progress in other colleges who are doing that. And then, of course, coupling that eventually with contextualization of all of the assignments within the math. The bottom line being engaging the student within the math field, as opposed to having them come and just take general math that will contribute to their career path. So that's, I want to thank the committee for their work, and for all of the math faculty who've been involved in that math redesign committee, who's the group within the math departments. And it's been an exciting venture, but there's a lot of exciting times to come.
Two very large areas that I haven't heard mentioned so far are that when the QEP was designed, it was a paradigm shift to mastery learning.
Yes.
And it also standardized courses where if you look, 75% of the faculty that teach those classes are part-timers, and we had little or no assessment of what the student was really getting in a course. And so this has sort of standardized things, and made it much more vanilla, if you will, so that I can walk into anybody's room and know where I am.
And the student who took a class with one professor or instructor and the student who had a completely different instructor, when both those students are in the classroom together for the next class, you have some guarantee that there's some evenness in the playing field.
And I know what content they passed, rather than having data from previous years where they passed, but who knew what they passed? You know, they showed up 30 times in the semester, or they showed up and they got 75% on every test they took, over the same material over and over again. I mean, I don't know. You know, so we didn't know what we used to have. So I think those are two big pluses to what happened with QEP, that maybe we keep some of them, maybe we don't.
Well, great, thank you for that good summary of all of the work that was done. It was a very good summary, but good. Jennifer, you want to end up with developmental math? It's not totally different.
And I want to go back to when Hamid was developmental chair right before me, because Hamid's not here, but I feel like what I've done built primarily on what the foundation he laid with the QEP. So, I mean, back in fall 2009 when Bob told us we were doing this, we had to do the pilot in the spring, and that meant that Hamid sat down and made a computer shell. So you have a person of one making the decisions and looking at things for the pilot. I guess maybe Bob might have helped him as department chair, but I think Hamid just did it. And it was this steep learning curve, because they told us how wonderful it was, which we found out was a little bit of rose-colored glasses, or anyway. But there was a lot of things that we learned, and so one of the things we learned was you have to put deadlines in. You have to, at your own pace, is not something that developmental students really understand. And so from that point is when the first redesign committee started to come together, and we had a group of people make the very first shell for the fall 55 implementation. And that was fall 2010. Every class on 3 of the 6 campuses went to the redesign model. That's when we had the grand opening of the VTI 301 lab. And I remember when Dr. Newberry and some of the other people came in, and bless their hearts, they didn't bat an eye when there were 10 people sitting in a room with 100 computers. It was a very small scope.
Were they there on the days when there were 120 people with 100 computers?
We need to invite them back now that we have a full capacity.
Okay. Just checking.
The lab was only open limited hours. We had faculty who were working in there and just a couple student tutors, and it was very limited. Not every campus had come to the redesign committee yet. Not everybody was fully on board with this, and it was predominantly downtown and southwest, and then Stephanie and Brandon and Benita came in, and all of a sudden we had a revamp of Math 55. Now this is right before the fall 11 semester in the 3rd year of the QEP, or I don't know if QEP started in 09 or 10, but literally you have 10 mathematicians in a room totally dedicated to creating a shell, choosing problems on a test, choosing problems in the homework, looking at it, and then, you know, how many mathematicians does it take to decide how to teach decimals? Well, a few of us. And as part of this issue of creating the Emporium model, we also had technical problems along the way, and there were changes that we shifted where all of our energy was going into getting the delivery system effective and working so we could have that consistency that Carolyn talked about. Every single section had every single homework problem exactly the same, and every single test exactly the same, and every single process exactly the same, which had huge benefits, but was also a significant amount of work getting it all set up. So there's definitely no lack of people who are willing to work hard on these questions and these issues. Is that where have their energies been going? And I think it's important to reflect. We also, at that point, shifted to an experiment that Ben even mentioned just the other day, where we went down to 15 students per room. So, 15 students per class. So we thought a better instructor-to-student ratio. And they met once a week, and then the other time they would go to the QEP lab and work with the tutor. So they were always having individual help available. But for us, when we implemented that model, it wasn't as effective. And so after just one semester on the downtown campus, we abandoned it. Southwest used it because of physical limitations in the number of computers that they had. So it's even within the redesign and within the QEP, we looked at best practices and other ideas, and we were continually reevaluating ways that we could improve it. And one of the ways we did is Lynn Houghton and many people were involved in creating documents to teach instructors how to teach redesign. Carolyn Martinson is wonderful at this because she would get up and say, you are no longer the sage on the stage, you are the guide at the side. And we created a redesign instructor handbook to provide the support for the adjunct instructors who were probably just as afraid of the computers as the students. Because we had, at the beginning, Bob, we had one full adjunct instructor who never checked their email. Well, now they're fully online and fully loaded and have made it through that learning curve. So it's been a positive experience in many ways in bringing faculty together. And we have usually somewhere between 25 to 30 faculty that come together for our training sessions at the beginning of each semester. So that's been a very positive experience. And I'm going to make up a statistic, as they all are. 2/3 of our faculty are participating in either the 4x4 initiative this semester or doing something new in the class to try and improve student retention and success. So even within the model, we're trying to get a lot of new innovative ideas coming together. So building on that, where are we going, and what have I been working on since my term as developmental department head is transitioning the QEP redesign. What happens after QEP, life after the QEP. And one of the things that we felt very passionate about, and I say we, I'm talking about the QEP redesign committee as well as has expanded into the math department, is keeping this unified energy moving forward, this group of people dedicated and hardworking to continuing to address how to improve student success in developmental math. And as such, we're in the process of forming the Developmental Math Committee. We decided just to say what it is. It's the Developmental Math Committee. And so it's got representatives from every campus. Every campus has a voice, and it's going to be an overall body that's going to maintain the consistency and uniformity while allowing autonomy locally. And part of that autonomy, local autonomy are some of the new pilots that we're running. Benita and then Mickey couldn't be here. On the Southwest campus are going to try online developmental math classes, which the QEP had kind of wanted to keep its focus in the class, but Adam Elias, our online guy, was talking about how much revenue we're losing from students going to other KCTCS colleges. And so they are trying to develop a model that engages students and gives them the option. Benita, are they coming to the labs as part of a resource that's available?
Well, the resource is available, but it's not a requirement that they put in time to lab.
Right. So, but they actually have some place they can go as part of their online model to get in-person help. And that's one pilot. We've got the contextualized math for allied health that I've been doing with Carolyn O'Daniel, and John Ward did it, and Ben's doing it. We also have the paired reading 65 and reading 185 and 65 that's coming forward as part of Dan Kesterson's work. So there's a lot of new and exciting things. KCTCS has opened up different math classes, 062 and 075, which lend themselves to the possibility of creating new pathways. And pathways is not necessarily a new idea because Carolyn and Sandy Spears and some other older faculty have talked about it from AMATIC, the American Mathematical Association of Two-Year Colleges, for the past couple of years. And so, you know, Brandon and other people are talking about the statistics course or going to a math for liberal arts course. So I think that's where we're headed, is taking all this energy and putting it to good use. So that's it for developmental math.
Thank you. I will be very brief. The ATD math intervention, because of the QEP's sort of all-encompassing scope, just focused on 2 interventions. One was to change the math assessment tool, which has already happened, from Compass to Coyote, and the other was to create a program which assists students in getting ready to think about their placement test, which I think is an absolutely vital part of any good college's program, because we know that students walk in to take their assessment and they haven't thought about math in a long time. So Jefferson Jumpstart is that piece of it. But of course the summit, one of the points of the summit is to just bring everybody together to be working on the same page, because the ATD principles, which are not far off the QEP principles, are, you know, look at data, get broad engagement, focus on student success. And so those pieces are really what need to drive us forward. So the next phase of the conversation is to think about what are the main obstacles, what do you believe are the main obstacles to student success, and then to try to prioritize those, and then use those to think about what roles different people and departments play in addressing those obstacles. Does anybody have any questions about that idea? Like what are obstacles? For instance, you know, something that Bob said earlier is that students often don't do enough work in developmental math classes, and they come with unreasonable expectations. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. That is an obstacle for our students to be successful in mathematics. The way I want to structure it, Brandon, do you have a question?
No, I was going to start with an obstacle.
Well, I know that this will be very easy for some of us. Can you just take a minute and write down a couple, because what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm, get anything out there, and then we'll move on to the next step. So just take a minute, write down as many different obstacles you can think of.
I took statistics and I
Oh, you
got a
did?
B.
That's gonna work.
Which is a miracle of God.
You had a good one.
I didn't take a lot of math myself, so.
I was not required to take math in college.
But I still
take
taught
one
Shakespeare
class.
also.
I know for teaching.
So,
But I only made 6 math.
Found out.
Hard reputed to have bad penmanship, so does anybody else want to volunteer to be a scribe and write things down for us? I'll do it if I have to.
all right.
All right, thank you. That doesn't get it, you can't show up for brainstorm. All right. Go ahead, kick it off, Brandon, what you got?
Well, I actually had a whole rant I wanted to go on, so.
Thank you for saying that. If we could just lay some ground rules here. Let's try to be concise and clear about what the obstacle is. You're welcome to use adjectives like few or many or most or the majority or all students. And we don't really want any rebuttals at this point, like, oh, I disagree with that, I don't think that's an obstacle. So just getting things out there, try to get as many of these as we can.
One student frustration, I forget who it was, who said that I think Ben, you were the one that said, once a student gets upset and walks out of that classroom, they're gone. Either this semester or maybe next semester, but the student frustration is very, very easy for our students. And math is a frustrating topic. I mean, I'm working on my master's in math right now, and I want to pull my hair out on every homework assignment. And I like math. So imagine what our students who are going through these classes are feeling, and that frustration just really drives a lot of students away.
And when you say they leave, they're leaving math or they're leaving the whole college? Because of
I
math?
think it's both.
I think the data says we're leaving the college.
And he mentioned his retention statistics, that was.
Okay, so math is a frustrating subject, or students get frustrated with math. What else?
They don't have time to work on math outside of class.
Students don't have time to work on math outside of class.
Students come with poor preparation. High school programs were probably not as good as they should be, or it may have been many years since they've taken math.
Students come poorly prepared.
Students come with unrealistic expectations based on their previous experience. They can show up and pass a class. Is that what you said, right? Now they can't show up and pass a class. They actually have to pass a test. Oh, what a concept.
Students are carrying too many credit hours based upon what they're capable of doing. Time-wise, they've got families, they've got jobs.
Too many credit hours. Yeah.
Students are embarrassed to be labeled a developmental
There's
student.
shame, there's anger, all of that.
Which you would think that we'd be able to kind of get rid of that, because was it 75% of our students testing at least one developmental course? And should there be a stigma on it when you're the majority like that?
I thought it was a badge of honor to say, I don't do math. And none of my family does, and it's genetically impossible for me to do it.
All right, what else we got?
One of the complaints that I've heard from students is that the time that they have with their instructor is limited time with their instructor.
Okay. Limited time with instructor.
And to piggyback on that, they say, I don't have a teacher. There's not a connection between them and their instructor.
I know that the courses are set up to be mastery learning, but I really question if mastering is occurring, because, for an example, in Math 65, the third module picks up where they left off with graphing, and students will have just passed the Module 2 test where they're asked to graph, and they can't graph in homework 1 and Module 3.
Yeah.
So how do you say that concisely? Students are not
Lack of mastery learning.
not learning.
Transfer of knowledge?
Yeah, I was about to say transfer of knowledge.
Retaining knowledge, maybe.
Transfer.
Transfer.
They're not making
The
the
transfer. Because we have that in English.
I know you said
Same
not to do
problem.
this, but I want to say something on that real quick. That's the way they're being taught to learn prior to us, is to retain it the way that
So does that
it's given just long enough to do what they need to
link
do.
into poor preparation? Or is
Yeah, I
that-
think it links in the form.
Is it, but could it maybe be a bigger point about the cultural way of teaching math? Like there's a historical way of teaching math, which is just about skills, or like doesn't foster retention? I don't know.
I wrote down memory of math as a,
Yes. Yes.
kind of adding that one. It's like it's over, it's gone, and I don't remember that. And it's the skill thing. I don't remember that skill.
So the math learning is typically short-term, goes into short-term memory, and that's not very deep.
I'd like to suggest lack of engagement by the student in the math, meaning, why do I have to take this? It has nothing to do with what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Why do I have to know this?
Yeah.
But then you give them word problems.
But see, it's algebra. All our math is algebra based at this point. Most of our students don't need algebra.
Yeah,
So,
more.
The first thing I wrote down was relationship, which really comes back to this time with the teacher, or who is my teacher, or whatever. And I think along with that, there's something about the computer that symbolizes different things. This computer is my teacher, or I'm not comfortable with this computer, I don't do technology, I'm already afraid of, so there's something about relationship. It's my relationship with this computer or with a person. You can make that concise.
Here, Renee, let me get you new.
I'll add to the technology, I think there's a steep learning curve for some of our students and some of our instructors. Hopefully the instructors are going to with the software and the computers themselves. And then also the technical issues that we run into every semester.
can.
Would you say that
Yeah,
second
say the
thing
second
again?
one
The
again.
technical issues that we run into at the beginning of each semester where software just doesn't work properly for a week or so sometimes. Really, really puts us behind.
But, you know, my student, this is coming from an English teacher, my students are in the writing lab. I'm teaching developmental English in the writing lab, going, oh, I just don't know how, if I can use this or not, and they're sitting over there on their phones. And I say, okay, well then,